Hello everyone, this is Nick Perry of Schaeffer's Investment Research with your chart slideshow for Friday, March 23rd. Today I am back with my weekly check of the broad market indices. My voice appears to be fading pretty fast today, so I thought I better get this recorded while I still can. Otherwise it's just going to be a bunch of silent charts, which depending on your perspective you might like that better. If so, go ahead and turn your speakers off now. Otherwise, let's go ahead and look at last week's charts. Basically, in last week's chart slideshow, the main theme was basically talking about the exhaustion point, the fact that we'd seen a lot of stocks hit oversold levels based on an indicator that I follow. And I basically said, expect to see some back and forth in there. And I ended it in my own stumbling and rambling way by basically saying we were should be closer to the bottom than to the top. And on that, it looks like I might have got a little bit lucky because we did see a bounce this week. So turning to this week's charts, we have basically we are in rally mode. Interestingly enough, if you look at the action, if you kind of focus in, this big up bar. Focus on the SPX there. That big up bar, that was the FOMC announcement on Wednesday, basically. We'd sort of drifted the first half of the day, and 2:15 the announcement comes out, and we were just buyers out of the gate. Seemed like they were chomping at the bit there. We'd seen a bit of a rally on Monday and Tuesday as well, so basically the first half of the week we saw some positive movement, and then the action yesterday and today has been more or less a consolidation of that. One of the things I mentioned in the blog is that we did overtake this short-term resistance level, and basically that's, from a technical perspective, that's a good sign. That short-term resistance should now be expected to hold a short-term support. So basically we're not quite at overbought levels. I was looking at that at the blog yesterday and mentioned it. We're the SPX is sort of right up and kissed it, but not severely overbought. But if we do see a pullback, we've got this short-term layer of support right here. And when you look at the Dow, that's the same thing there. Basically, that former resistance should now be expected to hold a support. The Dow did, find resistance right at its 50-day moving average, but I don't know if I would put too much stock into that. I mean, it's worth noting the SPX closed above it, so it's sort of a counterbalancing point. As far as the comp goes, it's following the patterns that we just talked about, break above the short-term resistance, and now it's trading right around its 50-day moving average. The RUT, which has been sort of showing a little bit different pattern than the other three indices, looks a little different, but the same basic theme. It had been holding above support right here, but it was trading in this range that we'd been discussing. So with this breakout here, we're now above that short-term resistance, back above the top of this range. As far as overall takeaways, we've got some constructive price action going on here. Basically, we had this consolidation zone that we'd been discussing. We broke above that. That offers sort of two layers of support to keep an eye on. The immediate one right there, which was the top of that range, and the bottom one there. If I highlight on the Dow, it's a little bit easier to see. Basically, those two areas now offer us some short-term support levels to watch. But I think the more important takeaway is the fact that we've got some constructive price action. The market, up until a couple of weeks ago, we'd gone I don't know how many days without any sort of significant pullback. We did see some volatility. We reached a short-term exhaustion point, and now we've seen a bounce. I wouldn't expect to go immediately back into just the former rally mode. As I said last week, volatility, you would expect to see that creep up now. It tends to feed on itself, and people tend to get in the habit of running this way and that way, as I said last week, and clearly everybody ran this way this week. Whether we see some pullbacks, it's hard to say, but I think the overall takeaway is that the technical picture is still sound. So that wraps up my overall thoughts for the week. As always, stay tuned to the blog for further updates. But until then, have a great weekend.